Good morning, Val. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. So,
Awesome.
thanks so much for joining me on my first episode of Everyday Inspiring Women. And we had some technical difficulties, but we persevered and we said, how can we get this to work? And well, we figured it out. So this has been previously recorded, but posting it and I'll continue to learn, like I said. So
Right.
thank you so much for joining me. I am so excited to kick off this series of interviewing a lot of women I know who I personally find inspiring. And so we're starting off with you. Yay! Val and I met a couple months ago in a coaching mastermind group that we're both part of. And I thought it was funny because we're both on the same call and called in like almost, our times had overlapped somehow. And it was interesting because we were really talking a lot about the same things. I was getting ready to host my first retreat. You were hosting your first retreat. So, and then just a couple other things that we connected with. Val is a certified facilitator of the Desire Map by Danielle Laporte, which I've personally used a lot. So I'm really excited to hear a little bit about how you incorporate that into your daily life. Mm-hmm. And also going over some things that you do. I have a few questions for you. And Val and I are accountability partners. We touch base with each other twice a week, 5:30 in the morning, to say, what are we working on? What do we need support with from each other? And I think you're going to touch on that a little bit as you go on as well. So thank you again. I really appreciate your patience with me too this morning.
No, it's fine. I'm happy to be here and work through our technical struggles together.
Awesome. Perfect.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything from that? And you want to maybe fill up the intro a little bit on yourself, or are you?
Oh, sure. So I'm a mom first and foremost. So we are in a group coaching program that's really geared towards moms. I have a 7-year-old son. I live outside of Philadelphia here in the United States. I work full time. I'm also a business owner. I own the Nurturing Collective, which I launched last year. And when I launched, the premise was to create containers through events and an online community to bring women together who were really focused on wanting to strip back all their layers and figure out what they want, and to be able to do it in a safe, supportive environment. Mm-hmm. But as we'll talk about a little bit, my journey has not led me off that path completely, but I'm working on what are the next steps really for the Nurturing Collective. Yeah. And so, so that's it. It's, I have full life, life to say. Yeah.
And that's why, a lot of the women I'm bringing in, like my community, were working women and moms that want more. And sometimes they don't know what they want yet. And I think you're going to talk about that a little bit. Or just, they know they want more and they have to figure out what that is. So it's perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. So can you tell us a little bit about your story? Where you're at now, obstacles that you faced or are still facing. It's a bit of a loaded question, but really just so we can get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, sure. So I think, at least for me, the journey that I like to share is really how I went from this place of following what I call the American dream. I don't know if it's exactly quite the same in Canada. But it's, we graduate high school, we go to college, we find a partner, we get married, we buy a house, we have children, and so forth and so forth. And so pretty much throughout my 20s and really into my early 30s, I was following this path that's supposed to lead to happiness, right? Mm-hmm. Like fulfillment. Mm-hmm. And I would get to each stage, and although my life was great, right? Like I have a great husband and a great son and traveled and doing a lot of really amazing things. At every stage I just got to, I was like, what's next? Or is this it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was really, right. And it was like really unfulfilling. And so I went into this place where I felt like what's wrong with me? I'm not happy. I'm not
Mhm.
fulfilled. Um, Looking outside of myself to really like fill this void that I was experiencing, which, now I realize that so many men and women,
Yeah.
but I think, I can only really speak for being a female,
Female.
experience, And so, there was like guilt around that because I'm like, I don't really have problems,
Mhm.
I'm not dealing with major life crises or, I'm able to put food on the table. I'm taking amazing vacations, like all these things. Yeah. I'm just like, this
How dare
can't be
you?
it.
How dare you want more?
Right. How dare I want more? It's kind of that way.
Yeah.
And so, you know, uh, so that is kind of the path that I was following. And part of that, I was constantly like changing jobs and careers and launching a new business here or, just, I felt like I was always like back and forth and trying new things. And, kind of still part of that same environment of our culture is, you find your path and you get on it and you don't like veer from your lane. It's like you want to be a business owner. You want to like, you start this career that you went to college for and you should really stay with that.
Yeah.
And yet I was like completely the opposite.
Mhm.
And so, there was just this weird, like, I almost felt like I had to justify to people why I was making so many switches in my life. People didn't really understand that. Um, so, and along the way, even my husband didn't understand it, but he was supportive. He's like, whatever, do whatever you need to do. And it was about, maybe about 3 or 4 years ago now. I remember, I can just remember, it was in October actually. And
Mm.
I just was like, dear Jesus, send me a sign. I need something. I'm so unhappy in my life. Like,
Yes.
this is affecting every area, right? Have you had that moment where you're
Oh
just
yeah.
like, I'm out of ideas. Like, I don't know what's going to fix me. Like, all these things.
Yes.
And without like drawing through all the details, like over the course of a couple of months, I was like, I'm going to launch a business. I love helping people. I want to see small business owners survive, grow, and social media is the way to do it. Like,
Hmm.
I'm going to help people with their social media.
Oh, okay.
And I know.
Know that
Again,
about
another
you.
business
Yeah.
it was a small window of time. but again, like, I was working full time and I had connected with somebody who really gave me a great opportunity, which was to learn how to do the social media marketing through his company, which was more like website design, and he had experience with that, so I could grow like a side business doing that.
Hmm.
And as I started to go down that path, I quickly realized, like, nah, this isn't for me. Like, this isn't really what I want to do. And at the same time, I enrolled in this entrepreneurial program, and it was online. It was only for women. And that's really when I started my path of, I'll say, personal growth and personal development and really like deep diving. And
Yeah.
that is where my whole world exploded. Um, yeah, it just exploded. And I was exposed to so many things. I was surrounding myself with other women like yourself, who really wanted more for their life,
Hmm.
not, they didn't want to play small. They didn't want to just have this one identity. Um, and it was amazing to be around that kind of energy. And don't get me wrong, I have great friends, a great community of
Hmm.
people, but there's something that's a little different,
Yeah.
and it's this, it's almost surrounding yourself with people who are like, support you no matter what it is, because they just realize that the desire's there and it's not limiting you, right? It's like, it's like this, can't think of
Uplifting.
the right word. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
uplifting, encouraging, and I just really found this community. Um, it was what I needed at the time, and so, I then it was like, okay, I'm not going to do the social media marketing. Now I want to, so let me back up a little bit. So in that business program, I was exposed to, not because of the business program, but just during that time, I was exposed to Danielle Laporte's book, The Desire Map, which is what you had mentioned earlier. I'm a licensed facilitator of that program. And that is where my whole world exploded. The Desire Map is really based on this idea of setting goals and flipping it around, where we get really in tune with how we want to feel, and then we start creating actions and our intentions to align with our feelings.
Yes, love that.
So right, and it's I had never really thought of it that way. I mean, we didn't really talk about feelings a lot when I was growing up. It wasn't this like, well, how do you want to feel? And it just, I felt, at first I was like, what? Like, how do I want to feel? I just want to feel good. You know, I don't even know what that means. Like, I probably had like,
I don't even know how to touch base with how I feel. Like, what does that even mean?
Right. Totally. And again, once you start talking to people about this, you realize, this is like almost like an epidemic. We don't even know how to process how we feel. Right?
Yes.
And so, I mean, it just completely switched things up. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to teach people this stuff. I mean, it was like, drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit. Like, everyone needs to know about personal development. Everyone needs to know, like, their life is going to change forever, because my life was shifting so dramatically in ways that, I mean, I had a great relationship with my husband, but now it's like a whole nother level. I have, again, great community of friends, but it's at like a whole nother level. But more importantly, like, using the techniques of the Desire Map, which we can talk about in just a minute. It's like that like searching for fulfillment, that why am I not happy? All of that, I have it.
Yes.
I have it, and that's why I feel so passionate about other people, just like I said, tuning in, wanting to know how they feel, start creating these actions around that, which is really, again, what the Desire Map is about. So
That's awesome.
Does that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah. It's amazing. And it's interesting because, like, everything you're talking about, it's like I'm just like, yes, 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 like this whole time. But how are we getting there? It's not just that feeling, because a lot of people have that feeling, but then it's going, you had that feeling and you didn't let other people going, geez, Val, you're not really staying in you're not really committing to a job. You didn't let that stop you. You kept going, okay, thank you. You're right. Whatever society thinks, but I know this isn't right. And you followed that a lot. Like, I think that's huge. That's inspirational.
Thanks.
It is. Yeah.
It doesn't feel that way. It doesn't always feel that way on the journey, right? And did you read Brave the Wilderness by Brene Brown?
I just finished listening to it. Brave in the Wilderness? Yes. Brene Brown super fan over here. Hell yes, I've listened.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if you had listened to it. So I've just been reading that book, and there's a point where she talks about how, sometimes it's like, maybe you can summarize a little bit better, but it's this idea of standing in who you are and just doing it anyways. And when I was reading that, I was like, oh my God, I so resonate with that, because that's how I feel. Almost like I've been a little bit of the black sheep along the way. Right?
Totally. Yes.
And it's not a superpower. It's not like, oh, look at me or any of that. It's just this, now I know it's intuition, right? Like, I know what guides me is more of an intuitive process. But at the time, I just was like, this doesn't feel good, and that's all I need to know. And so I'm out.
Yeah.
But funny. Now I'm able, go ahead.
No, go. Now you're able to what?
Now I'm able to, through just learning new tools, right? I can deepen into understanding my intuition, and it feels different for everybody. Everybody has their own process, but it's really like getting out of here and dropping into our hearts. And for me, I find like I start to physically feel like this, like my back will hurt, and I don't feel good when I'm not in alignment with the direction I'm supposed to be going. So,
That's just it. Totally. So I have to share this one little story too, and it's totally in a lot. I was in a group yesterday at work, and it was 25 people. We had to do this quiz, and this quiz, like this 10-question quiz, puts you in a bucket of fourth categories. And I've been practicing, standing in my power. I think we've talked about this. I'm like, that's like my theme right now is like standing in my power and being like unapologetically me. And it's hard. It's so hard sometimes because I'm like, I've got a strong personality. But I've been taught, that I have to really tone it down because I have to be small because I'm a woman. I won't even get into that. But, so I just really have to tone down my really big personality. And I was in this meeting and I was filling out the questions, and the facilitator, and she was lovely, and she says, "Who's the first category?" And I didn't even look up, and I put up my hand. And then I look up, and she's like, "Okay, 2 of you out of 26 people." And I immediately thought to myself, "Oh, I should have put myself in the second category." It was the first thought that popped in my mind yesterday. And then I thought, no, like I resonate with the first category. The characteristics of it is me. And because it was only me and another woman, and I know it was both of us, but then I second guessed myself. Then my next thought was, and it was like the majority of the room, I'll say 22 people out of 26 put their hands up for the second category. And that's fine. Like, and if that's what but then I had this question going, is that really truly how they felt too? Or were they afraid to say, yes, because of the title of the first category, I found I didn't like the title of it. It was intimidating to me, but the characteristics resonated. So I couldn't help. My second thought was, is that really how they felt? And maybe it is not, and that's perfect for them. But, it was just really interesting for me going, I had to stand in my power and going, this is who I am. And I couldn't, and then immediately though, but anyway, that's something I personally am working on. So it was really, that book really, I thought about that yesterday going, I'm here and maybe I am all by myself, but I'm being true to who I am. And that's what makes me feel the best. So, but yeah.
Yeah. I feel like chills hearing you share that story because I have 2 points. Hopefully I don't lose them both. So the first is, sometimes I feel like when we're taking quizzes, right, especially around like personality and things like that, you can start to see a very common theme with the questions often, not all the time, but often enough where it's almost like, am I this way or do I desire to be this way?
Yes.
And so I'm interested, I would so be interested to hear, this could be with any quiz, but with these women specifically, how many of them may be in one of these other 3 buckets than the 22 that were in this one bucket because they desire to be that way, but they're not really that way. Or vice versa. They're acting one way, but they desire to be in that bucket 1 with you, or like you said. So it's almost like the flip of that.
Right.
Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think the second thing, which is really important for women to hear, is when you're standing in your power, right, which is like what you're working on it, you are giving other women permission to do the same thing.
Yes.
And it is like,
yes. Oh, you don't. It is. But that's why we're here. That's why we do it too, though, isn't it? That's why we're doing it.
Yes. I get so emotional about this because I cry like all the time.
No, it's good.
oh God, until like 3 years ago, I never cried because I
Me
wasn't feeling
too.
my emotion,
Me too.
right?
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
wasn't feeling them, but I get so lit up when I see a woman standing in her power or really allowing her genius to shine,
Mhm.
because it is so impactful for other women, even men,
Yeah.
our children,
Yes.
because that's being authentic to who we are, right? Not some perception of who we should be, right?
Mhm.
Or playing it small because, again, society tells us that. I mean, I
Right.
feel like that's a whole conversation we could have. And I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, like a whole couple hours on just that. But
Yes.
so to hear you say that, it's like, yes, you are like living that. And that is stepping into your greatness. And sometimes it's really freaking hard,
Yes.
right? It's
And
really hard.
scary.
And it's sometimes scary. Yeah, scary. And I think sometimes we don't even realize when we're not stepping into our greatness and our power,
Yes.
right? So when you can recognize that moment and be like, I got to do it, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to be in that bucket one because this is who I am.
Hmm.
So good.
And yeah, I was glad I didn't look up first, I think, because might have just edited myself. So there's that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was thinking too, like, so what do you do to stay tapped into what you want, like, and like your through self-care? What are the things you practice on a regular basis to stay tuned in?
Oh. So as far as like self-care, um, and trying to stay tapped into that, I mean, I'll be the first to admit, like, I'm like this with that.
Mhm.
But again, I think just from time, I can tell when I need to like really focus on whatever it is, the type of self-care I need, whether that is connection with other women, whether that is connecting with my husband or my child. I mean, that is a form of self-care for me.
Yes.
Or it is literally going for a run or going to yoga or meditating or journaling. Like, I'm very much like, I go with more with what I need,
Yeah.
Do you do that too?
Really, like, and I was thinking, it's how am I feeling? What do I need in this moment? And it's meditation or connecting with my husband or whatever. But yeah, keep going. I'm just listening. I love it.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it is like really tapping into how you're feeling. So if I'm feeling, an example is if I'm feeling really vulnerable and really raw and unsure and questioning my abilities,
Mm-hmm.
the two things that I think gear towards the most is being with people. So that is being with my husband, because I can just be me. But
Mm-hmm.
then it's also reaching out to my community, like you and some other amazing women and coaches too, right? Or having a coach that I can like send a message to or get on the phone with or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
um, to reflect back to me my own genius, right? I mean, that's a form of self-care. I mean, it's really what, or if I'm low energy, maybe I just need to take a freaking nap, or I need to like have a little dance party up in my office. So yeah, I think it's really tapping in, how do I feel? And then how do I want to like either be really tender with myself, or how do I need to counteract like where I'm at to shift me into a new energy, a new place. So,
Perfect. That's awesome. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Then do you ever get like pangs of guilt for taking really good care of yourself? Or you had mentioned, um, you know, when the thought of like, what are people going to think of me? So how do you deal with those feelings when, what are people going to think of me when I change jobs? Or what are people going to think of me if I launch my business or I'm doing social media marketing, like, how do you deal with those? I guess it's like feelings of guilt or not being enough or what other people are going to think, and still work towards what you want.
Yeah. So I think that's like I could answer that in a couple different ways. So as far as like doing things for myself, I I don't really have guilt around that. I mean, I think about how it may affect my family in the sense
Mhm.
of if I'm traveling a lot, or we're putting financial resources towards building my business, or allowing me to go on a retreat because that's what I need, you know, and that may take away like part of our vacation fund for my husband and I, or whatever. I mean, I do consider that, but there's a level of me that I also feel like it's what I need, so it's non-negotiable.
Right.
You know, it's not up for debate.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I go to my husband and I say, I need to make this investment in a coach, and it's significant, and this is going to impact our family for the next year.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, you know, like, do we have the money? Are we going to lose the, you know, the roof off of, you know, from above us, or, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
No. Okay. Do it.
Yeah.
So I have to say I am super grateful that I have such a supportive spouse, because I know not everybody has that.
Yeah.
I do recognize our partner. But I also feel like this is my life too, right? And there's certain things for myself that are non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And doing things for myself, putting the time and resources into taking action, sometimes is just, there's nobody else's opinion that gets to come into play.
Yeah. Oh,
you know, and it's, I mean, I think some people hear that and they're like, oh my God, how selfish, right? But you know what? Do I sacrifice myself completely for others, for their opinion, or because whatever? No, you know? And then I also think, like, I don't want my son to feel like I'm sacrificing my life for him solely, or my husband, you know? But on the flip side of that, I'll say, I had this conversation actually a lot, and I feel like women need to hear this, so I'm just going to share it.
Yes.
I've had times where, because I am so out there and I take care of myself and do the things that I need to do to be fulfilled, I feel like there's times where my husband doesn't do the same for himself. And I can tell when he gets to a point that he's like, okay, I need guys' nights, or I need to just really be focused on my health and wellness, or I need to take a trip to see my best friend, or whatever it is. I support that, but I don't take on the responsibility for him being fulfilled. That's his role. Yes. Just the same as it's my role for me.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yes. It's his responsibility for self-care, and you can help, like, let him facilitate, and you'll give him the space, you'll hold that space for him, but it's his responsibility to take that action. Yes. Just like it's yours. Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't, so I think there's a level of, like, you just have to take it. You have to take what you need, and not in a, it's, I mean, it goes back and forth, right? It's not always one-sided. Sometimes it may feel that way, but, you know.
Awesome.
Yeah. I hear women talk about that a lot, about feeling guilty because maybe their spouses don't do enough for themselves, or like, I can't do it because my spouse doesn't. And I'm like, that's not your responsibility. Stop putting that on yourself. Yeah. You know? No.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that. Yeah. Guilt comes up. I hear that a lot from my community as well. So what are you working on right now? What themes are coming up for you? And I like to think of, and you and I personally have been talking about this breadcrumbing idea, or this, what's the next right step right now? I'll do a little sidebar. You know, we get I personally, and a lot of other women I talk to, get overwhelmed going, okay, I want to start my own business. I need to know my endpoint, all the steps along the way, because I guess we're E-type personalities, but, you know, and it's that surrender to say, I don't need to know. I need to know my goal. I don't need to know all the steps. What's the right step now? So I thought maybe you could talk about your themes that are coming up, and then what's your next right step?
Yeah. So I think the theme for me right now is action, because I'm very much that type A as well. And I can also, even though I've made a lot of changes in my life, I can also stay in that analysis of paralysis, you know, and I overthink it. And I'm like, it has, you know, I'm constantly in my head about, okay, it has to be this way, this way, this way. And then I don't ever take steps because it doesn't feel right.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What are you talking about, these feelings?
Yeah.
Right. So for me, especially because I'm shifting my business, and I've really been trying to lean into first just putting out there what I'm interested in. So right now I'm interested in, I just, as you mentioned earlier, co-hosted my first retreat. And it was an amazing experience, not only for our attendees, but for myself. I learned a lot. And so when I was there, I was like, I need to create this container. Like, this needs to happen. Like, this is my mission right now. And so I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I'm just going to start talking to people. Right. And I started, you and I have talked, and a couple other people, and I've been not researching in a sense of like, I have to do it this way, but more like the right thing will come. And I just feel like, so when I start walking down a path, right, like I'm like, okay, I think this is what I want to do. I start really assessing that. And if it feels hard, not hard in it like a self-limiting way, but like my body doesn't feel good to it. It's a resistance, but and there's a subtle line. I know you know this. You've experienced it, and you coach women through this.
Yeah.
Is it? And you've even asked me this question: is this resistance or is this a knowing?
Right.
And I think it's the knowing. And so when I can able to tap in and do those self-care things that we talked about, right? And tap into my intuition, it's subtle sometimes, but it's a knowing, like, okay, not this way, not this way, not this way. Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's the direction I'm heading.
I'm so excited. Yeah. I can't wait to see what's up. And we talked a little about maybe doing a retreat together. That'd be awesome. I don't think we're in that space yet, but maybe we'll both be in the right space at the right time. It'll happen.
That's right. Yeah. I definitely feel a collaboration happening at some level. And like you said, when it's like the right mix, it will happen.
I couldn't agree more, for sure. We'll both we'll both use our intuition to know.
That's right.
You know what? You made a post. We didn't talk about this before, so I'm kind of throwing this at you. So sorry, not sorry, as they say. You had put out a post, I don't know, like a month or so ago. And you're like, I love my life. And you know what? I have been thinking about that post since you posted it, because now here it's my turn to get emotional, because I don't, not that I feel guilty, but I'm like, I love my life. And I remember posting on yours and going, I know I love my life because I can look at the crappy ass pieces of it where I'm pissed off or I'm upset or I'm feeling hurt, and I'm going, okay, this too shall pass. And like, I still go, I don't know how I got to be so lucky, but I love it. I love everything about it. And I think it just coming from a place of gratitude too. So for me, and I'll think about that. Like, I'll think about that going when I'm in those spots, and I think about that post, and it's really stuck with me, and going, and I can look at my life objectively no matter what and go, yes, I love it. And, but I love it also because I create it. I don't. And I think that's for me, the biggest shift in my own personal development over the past 10 years or so, where I used to just default and react to my life. Whereas now I'm like, I'm not all the time, I still react, but where I actively take steps to create a life that I love, and I do. That's all. Yeah. So thank you for posting that.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that with me. I feel like I want to expand on that a little bit. If you were to look at my life, like from the outside, from several years back till now, it doesn't look that much different. It really doesn't. The reason I love my life is because I have so much gratitude for what's in my life, right? And I've let a lot of stuff go. like a lot of relationships, mindset beliefs, physical items. I've let a lot of stuff go. And so I think it's a process of eliminating what's pulling you down, right? The toxicity that may exist in relationships. I think it's also having that attitude of gratitude and really, really being grateful for it. But I also, what you had just said, like, you are, and you have, and you will continue to create this life that you love. And I think that's a perfect word. It's from living by default to being super intentional about what you're doing, right? And it doesn't mean that we're not going to experience, potential heartache, loss of loved ones, whatever it is. Businesses blow up, jobs fail, all these things. It doesn't mean that we're not going to experience them, but it is the mindset and the attitude shifts that we have around them that has created this place for you and I both to be like, oh my God, I fucking love my life. Like, it's amazing, and so I feel like that is very, I had a friend, I think it may have been the same post that I had shared this on, when I had said, you know what, I just want to, like, I almost want the tagline of my life and my business to be like, I love my life. And she's like, that sounds so cheesy. And I'm like, it kind of does, but you know what? It's the truth. And if we standing in our power and being intentional about creating this life that we love, gives somebody else, shines a light so somebody else can be like, I want that too. I want to feel that way. That is why you do what you do. That is why you have to block out the naysayers, surround yourself with people that support you, love you, will call you out on your bullshit, hold up the mirror, whatever it is. Like, that is why you're doing the beautiful work that you're doing with women, between health and wellness, life coaching, creating this new video series. Like, that is why I want to create these containers for women to be able to peel back those layers, right? And help women, like, get in touch with how they want to feel. That's why we do what we do.
Yes, period.
Okay. I feel like I should just, like, get down off my soapbox right now.
No, stay there. Preach it.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
And I think about, do you ever think about this? Like, what's the fuel? Like, what is that like really set it off for you? Like, I know some people it's illness. It is a loss of a relationship. Like, it doesn't have to be a tragedy. I mean, it could be anything. You just be like, wake up one day and be like, oh, I'm done, I often think about that. Like, what was my initial motivator for this? Do you ever think about that for yourself, or do you know it? I mean, some people do and some people don't.
Yeah. Mine was, it was a moment in time. And it was, for me, I was, I was with my ex-husband, and I was, I know exactly, like, I don't know what I was wearing, but I was standing in my hallway of my house, arguing with him, and looking in the hallway where I could see my girls, because my two oldest ones, I could see their room, and I'm going, I think Elizabeth Gilbert says this, but not this. And I knew that was it. And I had to make change, because, and my one friend says this back to me, that I had said this to her once, and it was impactful in that before that moment, I thought I was working to save my marriage for my kids. And the split second that moment happened, I knew I had to leave that marriage for my kids. And that I needed to say, what I wanted for them was them to be in a healthy relationship, and I wasn't being a role model at that time for them. And to that point, that's what drives me. And once I really learned that I had to show every single action I take is the action that I would want my kids to take, or I would want my girls to do or be, that's what continues to drive me to say, they don't listen to what I say. So I have to show them, they do listen, but not all the time. But I have to show them what's possible. I have to show them what, if I want it for them, I have to demonstrate it. So that for me,
Mm-hmm.
it was an exact moment in time. Yeah. So you don't, yours,
Wow.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I think that's I feel like a lot of like feedback right now. Can you hear that?
Feel good. I'm good on this end.
Okay. It's probably just me then. Yeah, I don't have a defining moment per se.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's it I just knew, like, I think because I've always like just changed,
Mm-hmm.
like that's been kind of the theme of my life. um I feel like I was just searching the whole time.
Yeah.
And so when I'm able to just hook into having the right information in front of me, that's when it happened. But I can say, like, I can see people in my life who live a certain way or are unfulfilled, family members or whatnot, um, and say, I don't want that.
Yeah.
And so if I don't want that, I need to do X, Y, and Z,
Yeah. Yes.
And, I don't want to call anybody out publicly on that, but I also think, you know, talking about a role model, and you're saying I have to show them what's possible by not doing it or not changing, you're also showing them that's what's possible for them, right? It's like the opposite effect. So it's almost like I want to counter, like, I don't know if
Yes.
this is making sense, but yeah.
Yes. No, for sure. I get it.
All right, cool.
But it's
Cool.
even
So maybe it's the same thing, just from a different perspective. Yeah.
yeah. And even if you don't get it, think, like, let it sit with you. Even if you're like, no, I don't totally understand what they're talking about, but let it sit with you, because sometimes for me, I need to let things, like even your post, like, let things sit, and you'll start to see how that makes sense as you go through the days or the weeks.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh,
I love this.
I can literally do this all day long.
Well, you're gonna end up being like a podcaster you watch. It's
like
gonna turn into
video.
like a whole thing.
I love seeing you. Like, this is especially because we'll just talk in the mornings. There's not as much video connection, so this is extra exciting for me. So if people are interested, like if people want to hook up, connect with you, or get to know you better, how would they go ahead and do that, Val?
Yeah, so you can connect with me either on my website, through my website, which is thenurturingcollective.com.
Awesome.
Or you can also find me on Facebook, which is The Nurturing Collective. And I have a very small Facebook group that, you and I've talked about, and about whether to grow that or not. So that could also be part of these next action steps. We'll see, what kind of community to create online. But yeah, those are the two ways. If somebody wanted to know more about the Desire Map, process, they can learn more about through my website. Yeah.
Awesome. And we'll leave us with, what's your favorite personal development book? So you talked about really diving deep into personal development. I know it's hard, because I agree. I think we had said, it's hard to narrow it down to just one. It really is. But I'm going to challenge you with that. So if you can narrow it down to one favorite book, what would you say?
Well, I think there's so many amazing authors. I mean, God, where do you even start? Depends on the topic.
So true.
Right. But I will say, and not just because I'm a licensed facilitator, although this is why I did it, is the Desire Map was the first book that I picked up that really started me down that path. And I feel like it's super tangible. I feel like it's a great place to start, which is tapping into how we actually want to feel and using them as guideposts. So, I mean, I would say probably that book, to be honest with you.
Great book.
There's work. Yeah, it's a great book. I mean, you've read it, it's a great book. And then there's a workbook that comes with it. So you can literally read it and then start applying the principles of what the Desire Map is into your life immediately.
Yes.
And that's what I love. It's, so yeah.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this. Thanks for your patience with me. I'm excited to get this out for everyone to really, there's so many nuggets, I don't even know where to start. So Thanks, Val. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
Have an awesome weekend.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica.
Thanks.
You too. All right. Bye.
Bye.